Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another qualifying rundown here for the ACC Championship in Aero League Racing. I'm your host once again, NLR Sick Boy, Gran Turismo 7 commentator. And don't worry, your video is not broken. I'm just going to give a quick intro before running down this insane qualifying battle between the two drivers who at this point were P1 and P2 in the brand new ACC Championship. Well, on the left we have Luke Fitzma, and on the right we have Alex Forza, of course, who we commentated last week in the Porsche 911. Now, these two ended up actually qualifying P4 and P5 in round 2 Monza. Obviously, last week was round 1 Spa. And they ended up getting, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, an identical lap time. Now, Luke ended up actually getting the P4 in the end because he set the lap time first. But this was an insane qualifying battle, and that's why we've decided to give you this qualifying rundown rather than P1 and P2, which was really close, I do remember, and also the qualifying recording kind of glitched out as well. So we brought you P4 versus P5, and as you can see, the drivers have already reached Sector 1. So I'm going to go back now and give you a proper qualifying rundown. And here we go, the qualifying rundown. So remember, these two drivers were neck and neck in the championship when we came to round 2 Monza. And looking back now on the way that they battled during qualifying, it really is interesting to see. Now, of course, eventually we're going to talk about what happened to the drivers during the race after we do the qualifying rundown. But it wasn't good for one of the drivers, but I won't spoil who it was. But as we go into the lap rundown, both drivers are very square and even through the final turn parabolica as they head onto the main straight. And as you're going to see, because the lap times are identical, it's very difficult to notice any difference between the two drivers. But the first difference that we're going to see is right here. I've paused the video and you can see that Fitzma brakes early on the into Retrophilia chicane. Fitzma ended up braking. Both drivers have broken at pretty much the exact same frame, just going backwards and forwards on the frame by frame count right here. And if you look in the bottom right hand corner of both of the video streams, they look like they brake at literally the exact same time, and both drivers have the exact same speed heading into the first chicane, Retrophilia. So that's amazing, the fact that they both brake at exactly the same time. And both drivers are very square and even out of the first chicane. But as you can see, look at the numbers of the speedometer of both cars, and it is identical as they accelerate out of the first chicane. And it's just insane, the fact that both of these drivers were still 1/10 off the pole position time is crazy. Just how fine-tuned the lap times are in ACC compared to Gran Turismo. Now, I want you all to look very closely into this next chicane right now, because this is where the big difference happens into Della Roggier. As you can see, Alex Forza ended up actually being 40 milliseconds ahead of Luke into Sector 2. Now, I'm not sure how that happened, because both the drivers had exact same speedometer speed going down the main straight and into the second chicane round Curve Grande. They had exactly the same speed. So I believe it was, looking back, Alex Forza ended up getting early acceleration out of the first chicane, but into Della Roggier. Now, this is the clip that I want you guys to watch closely. Into the Della Roggier chicane, it appears like Luke brakes a little bit earlier than Forza on the right in the Porsche, and that allows him to get a better exit from Della Roggier. And the same thing happens in Lesmo 1 and 2. So let's play it at regular speed first of all, and it's almost indecipherable, the difference between the two drivers. But going back right now, and I'm going to go frame by frame, and if you look at the red bar at the bottom, it's already almost half filled with Alex Forza in the 911 on the right, but it's barely filled at all up until the Lamborghini on the left reaches the orange marker just before the 100 meter board, is when Luke really starts applying the brakes. And as you can see, what that means is that Luke has got 3 miles an hour greater heading into Della Roggier compared to the 911. And I'm going to go frame by frame for you guys. Now, I apologise if you see like a loading symbol in the middle of your screen. But as you can see, throughout, Luke appears to be about 4 or 3 miles an hour faster than the 911 throughout their time through the Della Roggier chicane. And because of that, Well, obviously Luke ends up gaining a lot of time. Now, on the exit of the Delarogier, it actually appears to be that Alex got the better exit in the 911. But somehow, Luke ends up gaining over 1/10 of a second through this second sector. So somehow he's going to have gained a hell of a lot of time. And I imagine it's braking later into the Delarogier chicane. And also look into Lesmo. A lot earlier does Alex force a brake. Luke brakes a lot later, as you can see, if you look at the two, if you look at the acceleration and the brake telemetry into the corner, but also it appears like Luke brakes a lot sharper. Look, he's fully breast down on the brakes, whereas Alex seems to be less likely to, he appears actually to be turning whilst braking, and because of that, not sure whether these drivers are using ABS, but if ABS is active, then that's why Alex has got a much less brake pressure heading into Lesmo 1. And ultimately, both drivers are pretty square and even as they both come out the corner. Exactly the same speed once again, but I believe that Alex has, the 911 has got better acceleration from the corners. So it means that he doesn't suffer from the exit by braking late, but he definitely does suffer from the entry by braking late. As you can see, Luke does the exact same thing. I'm not going to pause it again, but the exact same late, sharp, straight braking by Luke on the left compared to less so with Alex Fawcett on the right. And as you can see, Alex is now 68 milliseconds behind Luke. So Luke ended up gaining 108 milliseconds. That's over 1/10 of a second throughout the second sector. And now heading into, of course, Ascari chicane, and this is where all the time can be made or broken. And I just quickly want to pause it before we head into Ascari, because it seems this time that Luke is, once again, it seems to be actually that they both brake at the same time, but Luke applies greater braking power. But what that means is that Alex Forza actually has more speed heading into the Ascari chicane. Now, as you can see here, right on the apex, Alex Forza has, well, 1 mile an hour faster. That's not a lot, but then Luke ends up braking even further down to 80 miles an hour in the first part of the Ascari chicane, whilst Alex is at 84. And what that means is it looks like Alex is going so much faster, and he glues himself to the inside apex of Ascari. And Luke is actually quite wide here. He never really, it takes him a while to reach the apex of Ascari, whereas Alex is literally glued onto that inside apex and the inside curb. But once again, it doesn't matter that Alex broke later, because the Porsche seems to have a much better acceleration out of the corners, because Alex is right up to speed with Luke heading right down into the straight into the final corner. And as you can see, regardless to where you pause the game, both drivers have got exactly the same speed on their speedometer, and obviously heading into Parabolica, I'm not sure how the two drivers are separated here. I don't have any notes on how the two drivers are separated, apart from the fact that if you watch Luke on the left, he oversteers right now, and we're going to rewind that actually. He oversteers about midway through Parabolica, and it means that he has to correct the car, and he actually goes wider on the exit of Parabolica than Alex. And all of these differences are so minor. It took me a while to find them at first. But let's watch Luke oversteer right there, and he ends up correcting it and going really wide on the exit Parabolica. Now, all of these differences are pretty much negligible in a regular race, but these two drivers end up setting the exact same lap time, as you see, 1:48.760 in the end. And, well, what that means is that tiny little nuances and tiny mistakes do actually mean the difference between P4 and P5. In this case, Luke ends up getting P4 because he sets the lap first. And with that, that's the qualifying rundown, I guess, finished. Luke ends up snatching P4. Alex Forza has to settle for P5, but both drivers did a, to my eye, perfect lap. And the fact that Pole was still 1/10 faster than that is just absolutely ridiculous. And, well, there we go. That was the qualifying lap rundown for both of the drivers for round 2 of the ACC Championship. Once again, insanely close lap between Luke on the left and Alex Forza in the 911 on the right. Now, what actually happened in the race was that obviously Luke qualified P4 and he finished P4, which means he actually ends up maintaining P1, joint P1 of the championship, alongside the driver who did, Sam, who did end up winning the round 2 here at Monza. So it's a joint P1 between Luke and Sam. Meanwhile, Alex unfortunately had a terrible race. He qualified P5. He ended up finishing P13. But of course, this ACC championship means that the worst result for each driver is deleted from their stats at the end of the season, which means Alex is actually still sitting in about P4 or P5 at the moment because he finished P2 in the first round of the season. My apologies. In Spa. Now, well, that's all I've really got to say about this qualifying battle. Absolutely insanely close between the top two drivers of, well, then the top two drivers of the championship. And of course, tonight, Wednesday at 7:45, will be round 3 of the ACC Championship in Indianapolis. And I tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot wait to see what happens in the qualifying battle between the drivers next time round. And I cannot wait to commentate and give you another qualifying rundown next week round Indianapolis. But until then, I hope you've enjoyed once again my commentary and rundown for ACC. And I will see you in the next qualifying rundown.